So some friends told me that it probably would be better for the videos if there was a bit more visual variety in the locations that I film, so that I'm not just shooting every single video in my office. So we're gonna try that. Hi there, friends. It's me, your favorite. Did you know that your body's decaying and my body's decaying? But luckily, we have modern medicine. And it's many different ways to both identify specific decays and remedy them. The identification methods are vast. You can get x-rays to see what's wrong with your bones. You can get your reflexes checked by smacking your knee with that special little hammer that doesn't hurt, but it doesn't not hurt, you know? And there's also, obviously, you can take your blood out and give it a little spin as a treat. There are just so many different ways for the torturous lab coat vampires to identify when my kidneys will fail. But luckily, we also live in a wonderful time where there are many different alternative medical practices that are available to you. And many of those alternative medical practices will help me cure my inevitable gout. Be it a dash of hazelnut oil in my morning steak smoothie, or simply realigning my toe joint to be in better harmony with my ankle chakra. These things are cures, but today I want to talk to you about an alternative medicine practice that can help you identify what is wrong with you, completely non-invasively. Today, I want to talk to you about NRT. Now, NRT is the acronym shortening of a Japanese word, Narareto. Narareto is a moniker of a form of smut content, in which the main character almost cheats on their partner, but then stops themselves at the last second, and then they use toys. That is a joke. NRT actually stands for nutrition response testing. Now, a lot of practitioners will say that nutrition response testing is based on ancient Chinese medical practices. But like most disappointing scams, it was actually invented by a white dude in the 90s. Doctor of chiropractics, Freddie Ulan, decided that he wanted to give up correcting people's spine imbalances and instead create a pseudoscientific method of measuring in full body wellness. He did this by combining together things like applied kinesiology, gastroenterology, a smattering of human biochemistry, and just a dash of the basic concept of static electricity. If all of this is sounding a little questionable to you, it should. You've got a barely doctor putting together as many different scientific and medical fields as he can to create something that sounds both new and exciting and also legitimate by way of obfuscating jargon. But Dr. Ulan wanted this technique to become a democratization of medicine, a technique that anyone could learn to be able to examine their friends and loved ones medically, to be able to determine what foods they needed more or less of. No invasive techniques, no letting of your own blood, and no dirty medicines or pills. Now, hold on to a lot of these founding concepts, the understandings of what nutrition response testing is and why it was made. I'll call back to some of the points that I've made here. So a lot of my initial assessments of this technique came from seeing funny videos online. Ones that I saw in Moist Critical videos, and then did more research into it, shared those videos around to my friends. A few videos I even found as in the unintentional ASMR playlists, because, you know, I get off on that shit. Everyone does. It's great. But since I'm going to be doing a more nuanced critique here of this, just kidding, I'm making fun of things, but I'm going to call it nuanced critique. I need to know it from a more holistic basis. I need this shit from the source. And so I went on Dr. Ulan's website to find that he has an online course on nutrition response testing, and it only costs $200. Sadly, I can't share with you the course materials because Tricky Dr. Fred put in a a little disclaimer that I had to sign that I can't share the materials of the course, but I can summarize it for you. And so, in summary, I spent $200, but I did at the very least get some basic understanding of nutrition response testing, and so now I can at least share with you all what it is. Yes, we are now this far, however far we are into the video, and I can show you what nutrition response testing is. Well, not yet. First, I need a patient and a table, so I'm gonna go get those from the store. I'll go buy one. So this is Laser. He's here because he has back pain and clinical depression. I'm not actually gonna fix that for him, but it does make it a whole lot easier when I ask him to lay here silently for an hour. Nutrition response testing functions in 3 different phases. The first phase is testing to find weakened parts of the body. You do this through using the patient's arm. Now, for the patient to hold their arm up and also to hold pressure on the arm against force that you apply to it requires effort from the body because, muscles and shit. And so nutrition response testing posits that if you were to apply pressure to a weakened part of the body and then attempt to push the arm down, it goes down easier because the human body, in a similar way to a neurodivergent person, has trouble doing 2 things at once. Now, once you have tested all of the different parts of the body and pushing the arm up and down and all of that, you can then start to learn about the priorities by shifting the body into priority mode. Priority mode.
Go in priority mode.
We're going to put them into a priority mode.
Priority mode.
What we're going to do is prioritize these out and see what we find.
Fingers. Once you've shifted the body into priority mode, you can then figure out where the real problems are. And today, the real problem is the head. Now, phase 2 of nutrition response testing focuses around figuring out what is causing the problem. What nutritional deficit or expenditure is causing the body to be this way. Now, Dr. Ulan has these wonderful test kits filled with all these tiny little tubes that contain metals and grains and viruses. And because the human body's static electric field interacts with the static electric field of the things within those vials, science says that if you put the things in their same fields, it's the same as if they ate them. Now, I don't have one of those kits because they cost an arm and a leg, and Dr. Ulan already has too much of my money at this point. But what I do have is this AA battery, which I will use as a proxy. So, nutrition response testing would show that if I was to touch this battery to his body and push the arm down, and it goes down easily, that means that if he were to eat this battery, he'd die. Luckily, I have a second test method so that we can prove that hypothesis. Now, true believers in the technique will probably criticize my demonstration of the technique, and that's fair. I can't really defend against it. Probably the easiest holes to punch would be I was doing it with a friend, and so they probably could have either faked things or just given bad readings, and I can't argue with that. I did want to show how nutrition response testing can be done on animals. Veterinary nutrition response testing is something that is offered on Dr. Ulan's website. And how it effectively works is simple. But I couldn't really do it to Cupcake due to her crippling anxiety. I feared that she would have a heart attack.
Cupcake, come here. Cupcake, come here. I need to do nutrition response testing on you. I need to figure out what problems you have. I need to figure out which nutritional supplements you are lacking in. Like the true Holmesian detective I am. Did you know that your arm is full of beans? When your arm goes limp, that's how I know. Your body is informing me. Don't run away.
since to do nutrition response testing to animals, you have a second human in the mix, acting as a sort of conduit for the animal's bioelectricity. It works in a similar way to Christmas lights, in how the electricity kind of works in and around each socket and lights up each light until it hits an empty socket and then causes a house fire. Now, Dr. Ulan wanted NRT to be a democratization of medicine, a technique that anybody could use and anybody could master. But you'll see a lot of practitioners sort of market themselves around their knowledge of the technique or their skill in applying the technique, which begs the question, why? It's supposed to be something that everyone can do. You don't see somebody going around asking to be taught how to walk by the best walkist. We usually just learn how to walk by our parents because, you know, they're the ones who are around when we learn. And all of this kind of becomes a bit more obvious when you watch through enough of these funny little videos. You'll see practitioners leave vials on the patient, obviously still interacting within the logic of nutrition response testing. Those vials are still interacting with the body's natural bioelectrical fields. It's like trying to do electrical tests, but once you flip a switch and figure out which switch works, you just leave it on and continue testing switches, not realizing that maybe you should, remove the vial or turn the switch back to what it was at the beginning before you start testing other switches. Also, the arm failing and falling down can mean many different things.
That's good. And that's good.
And no, before you think it, I'm not talking about switching. In most of these videos, the practitioners often begin their sessions by confirming whether or not the patient is switched, or that the signals that the patient's body gives off are inverted.
We're going to put his thumb and pinky together at the beginning here to check for switching, match my resistance.
Once they've confirmed that the patient is or isn't switched and have adjusted their testing to that switching, the arm failing should mean good or bad, not whatever the practitioner needs at the time.
That's good.
But I do want to call your attention back to something I said previously regarding nutrition response testing's ability to determine what foods you might need more or less of. You see, the phase that follows the body scanning phase and the understanding of the issue phase is the prescription phase. It's not called that by NRT practitioners, but it's the point where they put different subjects on your body, different things from their walls of things that they have, and after putting them on your body, identify what things you need more of. Now, you'd assume that this is probably just recommendations of changing your dietary habit, but our nutrition response testing friends had a pattern that I noticed to emerge. They often very much heavily relied on nutritional supplements. Now, don't get me wrong, I take nutritional supplements. I'm not saying that nutrition or food supplements are inherently a bad thing. My body doesn't process vitamin D properly, and I can't help that. However, our friends in the practicing world have supplements that they prefer, and if you watch enough of the funny videos, you'll notice that there's a bunch of supplements that they list off that have weird names. Supplements that you probably wouldn't see in your usual grocery store pharmacy section. Things like
Cataplex E2.
SP Cleanse. Parotid is Cardio Plus.
Now, I did some research into these, and these are sort of specialty supplements. And I could only really find one company that was selling them. The company, Standard Process. Now, I'm not a chemistry guy, but I do know two people who are, so I asked my friend Marcus, the medical but not a med student friend, as well as my friend Luis, the professional drug enabler. I asked them both to look into some of these specialty supplements that standard process offered. A lot of the ones that were mentioned in these nutrition response testing videos. After running a bunch of these supplements by them, the conclusion they both came to was one of these are effectively sugar pills with some trace amounts of vitamins and other supporting nutrition, and also some trace amounts of bovine extracts. And when I say bovine extracts, I mean things like bovine liver extract, bovine brain extract, the things that slaughterhouses don't use. These animal extracts were included in the proprietary blend section of these supplements, the proprietary blend making up the majority of the supplement itself. But, to clarify, these are just specific supplements. And legally, standard process isn't doing anything in the wrong. They are simply providing non-FDA approved food supplements to the market. Which is fine because apparently food supplements are neither food nor drugs, but a secret third thing. I'll just say, people should take anyone suggesting these products with a grain of salt, because the pills are probably pretty sweet. The main thing that I wanted to do with this video is to show how these pseudoscientific practices couch themselves in medical jargon and obfuscation. And while there may be some true believers in and amongst the supplement peddling grifters, people who truly do want to help others, but just find themselves using a failed methodology, you have to understand that we live in a society where the people who are the most vulnerable for reaching out to these sorts of things are people who are already suffering, both physically and mentally. It's hard for me to look at these things and not see the similarities between them and the health and wealth prosperity televangelists like Peter Popoff, the people who take the money of the poor and needy in exchange for miracle water and prayers. It's hard for me to look at any of these things as anything more than just a scam, targeting the people who are suffering and taking resources, time, and money away from people who don't have much to spare. So if you still believe in these practices and you still think that they're able to help, the one thing I would ask is try not shifting your priorities into a mode, but try and shift your priorities towards helping people find real medical help. Because as it reads on most of those food supplements, these are not FDA approved to cure disease. Thanks for watching. This is the part of the video where I get to shill my thing. So if you like the kind of content that I make on this channel, the weird variety of content, you can head over to my Patreon and give just a single US dollar a month. My content is varied and my upload schedule is relatively erratic. So giving anything more than a single US dollar a month would feel a bit unfair to you. So that's why there is only one Patreon tier. It is the tier in which you get everything. The only tier, the $1 tier. If you give me more than $1 US a month, I will be very sad. I will blame that sadness on you specifically, and I will shame you publicly for it. And before you all start worrying that I force-fed him a battery, I didn't. You see, the battery was all magician's patter. The battery was tied to the inside of my hand with fishing line the entire... Oh God, the battery is gone. Oh God, the battery is gone.
Belly button?
No bananas for you yet.